Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Author's Kiss, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Happy New Year to everyone. We're bringing you a wonderful book and author to start your new year off in. I feel your pain so you don't have to. What does that mean? Can somebody take the pain away from you? It's not about the cure. It's about the pain that we live in. And how can it be taken away? This is very interesting. The Jirdasham Institute will strive to take your pain away forever with a drug-free treatment that really works. We make no claims about curing cancer or healing rheumatitis, but the method was not a cure, but we promised to remove your pain so you can get on with living again. Can't live with the pain? Get rid of it forever. It's all about the case. Delaney and Asher run the Office of City Oversight. The role to expose the scams, the deep Berg City safe from unscrupulous contractors. When something looks too good to be true, it has to be a scam, right? What if the scam works? What kind of scam is that? Well, with 308 complaints against the company that are suddenly withdrawn, it gets Delaney's interest. When he meets Mr. Abrams, owner of the last bookshop in the city, he learns he paid 30 grand to the Jirdasham Institute to be rid of his pain. Seems it worked. For a month. Delaney knows something about this stinks, but what exactly? And as the contract says, any pain after that is the new pain, and crivet emptor. In other words, you don't get your money back. So the author, Sam Hawksmoor, is my brother. And you know this because I've interviewed him before, very proud of his writings, speak of him often. And I love all of his books. They're always intriguing. They always take you somewhere where you don't figure that is the where we're going. I have spoken about his books many times on other shows because they're relative to the topic that we're talking about right now. And right now, there is a lot of pain being felt. You know, the emotional pain leads to physical pain. And really, people, if they could pay for someone just to get rid of their pain, they would. But it is too good to be true. Isn't it? Well, this is an adventure. It's a love story. It's intrigue. It's murder. It's conspiracy. It's everything you could possibly want in a book. And I read it at the draft level when I was visiting my brother back in September 2019. Literally, as he's typing it, I'm reading it, and I was transfixed. Since then, obviously being edited, the book has literally just come out. And this is a wonderful book to start off with the new year. Escape from all the problems out there. Dive into a mystery. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Hi, Sarah.
Forgot to say he's a humbug. I love all of your books, and I do recommend them to a lot of people because it's your stories are always so multi-dimensional, you know, and you're never a flat story reader. And I don't know where you get it from, but I know you go into your zone and off you go, traveling down a different road that is always of intrigue. And you're always able to bring us a different look on something that we would never look at. And this latest book is certainly one of those.
Well, yes, it's a little bit different, I have to say. And I just quote you, there was a review that came out just now, and it says, a captivating adventure that could be compared to Roald Dahl tale filmed by Wes Anderson.
See what I mean? There's no pinpointing this in any one particular thing. So just when people think they've got it, you take them off somewhere else.
It is a little surreal in some cases, but actually I realized the other night that I was probably channeling Cary Grant.
Oh, okay.
Think back to the sort of movies he used to make. And that's what, you know, not the comedies necessarily, but the thrillers, etc. And I realized that, yeah, then maybe that's what I've been doing with that unconsciously.
Right. Right. Well, they were good thrillers because we don't want to know, well, that's the villain, and it's just a question of them catching up to them. We want at the end it to be, wow, I didn't see that coming. And
Yeah,
that's
and it's
really
also
what a good
about
thriller is about.
relationships
Mm.
too. That's
Mhm.
the important thing. And a lot of people just love to have stories where it's about shoot 'em up stories.
Yeah.
I just watched one last night, which was dire. It just literally just people being killed all the time. There was no plot whatsoever. Whereas I like to actually concentrate on the characters and what's happening to them. They're in a psychological dimensions. And of course, in all my books, generally, I don't know how it happens, but there's always a kid and a dog.
Always.
I don't know where they come
Always.
from,
I
but
think
they're
it's
always
I think
there.
it's in your soul contract. There has to be a kid and a dog in every book.
Yeah, I have no idea where they come from. But,
Well, for your love of dogs and the kid inside of you. But talking about shooting up, you always have a death in your books, but it's never a frivolous one. It's never kind of killing for the sense of killing or for the thrill of it. It's always to do with the plot, and always has something around it. And whether the person is good or bad, you always have a reaction to it. It's not a dismissal death.
yeah, in the book's actually called "We Feel Your Pain." Not "I Feel Your Pain." We feel your
We
pain,
feel no pain.
and think about it as an advert. So we often see those sort of things. I mean, in fact, if you go to the back of a lot of newspapers or magazines, and it's filled with pain adverts
Hmm.
aimed at anyone 50 plus with any kind of injury, and there's magic cream that will always make it go away. Take turmeric, everything will make it all go away. Nothing makes it go away. Nothing. I tried, and I had been in pain a long time. And as I say at the very end of the book, that this is based on my own experience. And I absolutely suspect I had prawns in France. And the day after it, I lost the use of my legs
Mm.
and could not move them at all. And then after about a month, the pain moved up into my arms, shoulders, neck, to a point of about 6 months later, I couldn't even dress myself. And I was trying to go to work, and I'd have to get students to take my coat off so I could actually, and I was moving like a robot. I was so stiff, and it was horrible. I was in pain the whole time. And it took 3 years for that pain to go. And I tried everything, every single osteopath and
Mm.
Ted's cream, and you name it. I tried it, and nothing worked, except when I bought this house, and I, hadn't any money. So I had to paint all the walls and then the ceilings. And oddly enough, painting a ceiling worked, because you got your neck up and you're moving your arms, and there's a lot of pain involved. But I realized after about a month of all of this that, in fact, I was beginning to move more easily.
Mm.
So there you go. Forget the osteopaths and all the rest of it. Paint your ceiling. There you
It,
go.
the natural physiotherapy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I wonder what was in those prawns. It can't, obviously, if it was food poisoning, it would have affected your stomach. So there must be some sort of poison.
Well, if you remember, our mother was allergic to fish,
Yes, yes,
drastically so.
yes,
You know,
yes.
whereas
And
I've never been allergic to fish, but shellfish is a different matter.
yes, and my daughter has that
Oh,
too.
right, is she? Oh, right.
Yes, yes, she can't eat
So, and
shellfish.
it's, when you're in France and everybody has prawns, and
Yes.
probably British for ones knowing Brexit, but anyway. But it's, yeah, you eat them and you're quite happy at the time, and then wham,
Yeah.
gone.
Yes. Yes.
But
And one
never
doesn't know
actually got
which
this
way your
one.
body's going to react. It's like I have fibromyalgia, which I think runs through the family. I think mum had it as well. And I moved my furniture into where I'm living in August, in the hottest days of the year, like 40 degrees. I'm in, warehouses taking things out in the blazing sun. And I'm lifting, carrying, and moving. And, I felt like I got beaten up, but at the end of it, felt better for it. So, the moral of the story is get moving, right? Get
Yeah.
moving, that helps your pain. But
Well,
that's not the.
although actually, in fact, it was last month now when I decided to wallpaper my bedroom. Finally, it's the one room I hadn't done, and I moved the bed, and then I was doubled up, and I had to walk out, I had to crawl out on my knees out of there. I just could not move my back; it just seized up, And I
Because you didn't
God, it's all
warm up.
starting again. Anyway, yeah, probably didn't do a warm up.
Mm.
And anyway, so that got very expensive in the end, where I had to get people to finish the job for me. So very
Sometimes it's worth it.
annoying. However, I have to say they did the job a lot better than I would have done.
Yes, yes. You could be lying in bed and see the wallpaper like this and just annoy the hell out of you.
And I just I'm gonna just read you a little bit from the book, if I may, just for a
Yes,
second.
please.
All right. So this is chapter 5, Little Ironies. She had no idea what time it was or even what day, how long she'd been lying there. Stella Palmer tried to move her head to make herself more comfortable. It was hopeless. She was so very cold and so stiff. She'd been almost amused at first. The irony of finding herself in this situation, sprawled on the marble floor in her designer kitchen and unable to move, was typical. Her phone was up by the counter, of course, well beyond reach. She could hear the phone ringing again. Most likely it was Paolo, the hairdresser, wondering why she hadn't turned up for 4 o'clock. Or Dr. Vitch, puzzled she hadn't appeared for her regular physio. Or perhaps it was Edith, annoyed she hadn't come to take her shopping, as she had promised to do. The phone ceased ringing, and she was again reminded of her thirst. The steady drip of the kitchen tap did not help any. Stella tried to move again, to inch herself towards the chair, but couldn't move. She knew her leg was broken, possibly her hip too. She had slipped on something and fallen hard on the damn marble. Perhaps if she'd been younger, certainly thinner, it might have been possible to get up again. But hauling her weight anywhere now with good legs was hard, never mind with a broken one. At least she wasn't in pain. She laughed at the very thought. That was exactly the problem. If only she hadn't heard of those people at We Feel Your Pain. If only she had not sold her mother's empty apartment and had the cash to hand, earning no interest in the bank. That was what made the decision to finally deal with her arthritis. You won't feel pain anymore. You'll be able to walk again. Go back on the golf course you loved so much, they told her. The devil had placed temptation in front of her. She'd seized the chance to be pain-free. They hadn't lied. Here she was, sprawled on the kitchen floor with a broken leg and couldn't feel a thing.
And pain is there for a reason. It's to tell us something's wrong. So if you don't
Precisely.
feel any pain, you could be walking around with a leg falling off and you
And
don't
that's the
know.
little irony here, that you take your pain away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's we're always telling people work through your pain, or if you've got a pain, then it means there's an indication of something wrong. And if you've taken that away altogether, then you don't know, or you don't know what damage you're doing to yourself. And
Yeah.
but it is the ultimate con men. I mean, they are charming, or they just have got this Pied Piper and know how to sell. And literally, they can sell an Eskimo to an Eskimo, right? I mean,
Well,
an Eskimo to her. And
I mean, that's why my hero, Delaney, is got fibromyalgia like you or me, and he's he's got osteoporosis, and he's young. He's only 44, and
mhm.
he just, for him, it's like he's tried everything already, and
So it's so tempting.
so now he's now, of course, incredibly skeptical of
Yes.
anybody who promises anything like this. And so he's exactly the right person to be investigating this. At the same time, he's got a little hope that maybe it does work.
Right. Yes. Yes.
That,
He's got to prove it. But, there is that hope of light. Yeah. There's
yeah.
also a stubborn streak in him. The more you fight against it, the more he's going to investigate it and look into it. But that's what makes him good, at really unraveling and seeing where the problems that other people are just washing over. They don't see the problem. He does. Little antennas go off. He sees something that's wrong. And of course, you give him a love interest in there, which is really, really nice. But I can see so many similarities again to you, the awkwardness of the love interest. When you do write, there is a lot of you in there, isn't there?
Well, there's a lot of all the places. Wherever I wrote this, which I wrote in a number of places, in Cape Town, in Eisner, in Miami, in New York, all these different places where I was, and I was writing it. In the days when we were allowed into cafes and can actually sit and write.
Yeah, travel? What's that?
Yeah, quite. And so all of that, and without wanting to seem pretentious, when I was on the Queen Mary going over from England, I got to talk to there's a lot of old people on the
Right.
Queen.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably all dead now, but anyway. And
So-
but it was interesting talking to them about their pain and how much they had spent
mm,
on trying to get rid of it. And it was
hmm
just like a perfect research vessel to be
Yes.
on and
Yes, and I
talk to
remember
them.
you didn't want to go on that
I didn't know when to go on,
because our sister had gone out and said you have to do it,
but it turned
and
out quite useful for that. But
yeah,
also meeting young people who have pain. And so they would, see me writing, and then they say, "Are you guys writing about pain?" And they would come and sit to me and tell me their life story about all the pain they've had. So it was quite useful in
it
that
was
respect.
definitely a painful book to write. We don't realize how many people are in pain. I mean, we do look at it as kind of people who have had, particular injuries, or people that are older that are in pain. But having done all of these shows for so many years now, there's a lot of dis-ease, in the psyche and in the mind of people, which bring on disease, which is then very painful. So there's a lot that we bring onto our body, and very often when we feel pain in our body, it is because we feel so completely disconnected to the world. And we're seeing that so much more now in younger people.
Well, if you think about it, that we are the accumulation of all the things that we do to ourselves. So I
Hmm
think of all the ladders I've fallen off. Think of the windscreen I went through on my car,
And the trees that
uh,
you fell
and
down
the
from, and the
trees.
rooftop. Yes.
Yeah, all of those things, and they
You are
all build
not
up.
Charlie Chaplin.
They all build up, right?
Yes.
Even and when we were children, and I tried to surprise you when you went by in a window, and I stood up sharply, and the window embedded in my head, and I
Yes,
got
you cut it
36
right
stitches,
open.
all the blood streaming down my face.
Yes, freaked the hell out of me. You go running back up into the hotel, like screaming. I'm screaming after you. And it's like a horror movie, like Carrie, blood pouring
It
all over
was.
you.
It was a horror movie. I still remember having the stitches,
Yes, yes,
and then opening it all up again when I went through the windscreen of my
yes.
car.
And then being in a coma and nobody knowing if you're going to come out of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So I have done my research.
You, a little bit too diligently, Sam. A little bit too diligently. But I have to say I'm right behind you. I was talking to someone the other day, about where pain came from, and she had polio when she was young, when she was
Oh,
6.
yeah, horrible.
And so
Yeah.
she's had a number of operations on her spine and leg, but today at 87, she's a sprinter. She has been a skier, a skater, just tennis, everything. I mean, she's stronger than I am, tougher than I am physically, and she had it all when she was young. And I think the older you are when things happen, the harder it is to recover from.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. But it was interesting as writing this, and I suppose in a way the guru it forms the backbone of the whole story in many respects, who can cure pain for a price, and he's our wishful thinking. He's the person we would love actually existed. But what I wanted to also draw to attention is about the pain that is brought to him in many respects, dealing with
Yes,
all of that.
yes.
And
Yeah, we talk about that with a lot of, because they interview a lot of healers, and it's like one
stressful.
has to be careful that you don't take other people's pain on, that you
Yeah,
have your own method of
absolutely.
releasing that pain yourself. And as a spiritual counselor for so many years, I used to take on the emotional pain of people, and I didn't have the technique to get rid of it, and so it started crippling me. So energy is energy, and it's found in everything. And again, with so many of your other books where you really do go into other dimensions and you talk about that energy, and just some incredible things. Please, folks, we've got a list of them right here on Self-Discovery Media. You've just got to go and look at all of his books. Every single one of them will take you on an intriguing journey. But that energy dimensional thing that we have there is we have to always keep our energy in flow. It always has to be on the move. And if it isn't, that's what causes the pain, because it means it's stagnant. And so,
Yeah,
when somebody's like this guru, which he's bona fide, he's a kind of an energy healer. Uh,
yeah,
and but the trouble is, somebody has to pay the price for it.
yeah. Well, as I say, he's been corrupted
Mm.
by the femme fatale that is in the story.
You're right. And, the ultimate con woman, there's,
Well,
you know,
a very beautiful con woman who's can wrap people around their fingers, etc. I mean, I made a conscious decision to keep her in the back of the story rather than making her a focal point, because you can only really have your detective and his assistant and the dog, of course, and then Maria
the girl.
as the as the main character. Because if you have too many main characters, you
Yeah.
lose control of
Yes.
the story. You know.
She reminds me, from when I read your draft, a little bit like Lyra's mum in Dark Materials.
Yeah, absolutely. But every single person that we write about are all based on people we know,
Yes.
consciously or consciously.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
we write what we know, or we speak what we know. It's but at the same time, you're also on your own adventure. I know that when you're doing a story, you have a story in your head. It comes to you, and then you're obviously, as a professor, you have a process that you go through, that you teach your students to go through. But it's still very much letting the fingers unravel the mystery that's in your head, isn't it?
yeah, I'll give you another example of a story about how things develop. So this is Asher, his assistant, talking in the office to him, and he's just the kids come back into his life, whether he likes it or not. And so he's just walking in, and he says, "How's the brat? I can't believe you let her back in." Delaney shrugged. "She's in a lot of pain and angry. She's been pretty much discarded by her mother. Maria's almost too tough for her own good." Asher sipped on her coffee. "But you're the sucker who cares for her. She'll get all comfortable with you and spit in your face again. You're too hard on her. She's scared she won't get better. You're too soft. Rufus knew a good sucker when he saw one. You have it wrong, Ash." Delaney returned to his desk, booting up his computer. "Rufus rescued me." That's the dog. "You have no idea what black hole I was in after my wife died. Couldn't find my way forward at all. I was lucky Rufus was there, needed my help." He glanced over at her. "You might think you don't need anyone. I was like that once. I'm pretty sure I was an arrogant bastard too. But I was the skipper and took responsibility way too seriously. I can't even remember that person now." Asher shrugged, turning back to a screen. And it's about development of people. We're all different people at different stages in our lives.
Thank God. I
Yes,
mean,
thank God.
I wouldn't want to be stuck
Except Trump.
where I used to be, you know.
Yeah.
We have
And
different chapters in our books, don't we?
yes, we are literally like that, aren't we? We develop. Hopefully, we develop and
Well,
change.
hopefully. Some do. There is obviously evidence of some people that don't,
Yeah.
which fortunately on the way out.
And everybody has an element of history,
Hmm.
and that your life is about lessons. So I say right at the beginning in the book about a quote from the guru, which I will quickly find for you, and if I can, and that is this: all pain teaches us something. It is for you to understand what that lesson might be.
Right. Exactly. Without it, we're always asking people to go in. Life isn't an exterior experience. It
Mm.
is the interior experience that brings about the exterior. So if you're living in conflict and painful life, that means that pain is within you. Go in within you to calm it down, to face it, to go through the process of healing it, and you'll create your calming waters on the outside. But we have to be willing to face that pain and that conflict that lies within us. And getting back to Rufus the dog, I mean, we've both had border collies that just touched our hearts and souls, that were completely our saviors, most certainly. And I do agree that, the dogs come into our life. We think we're saving them, but they most certainly do save us, because they only speak from the inside, don't they? There is no exterior agenda with them other than walkies and
Yes.
treats and belly rubs, but
I,
they're all from an
well,
interior place.
oddly enough, today on my walk, there's a little field where they're unfortunately going to build about 14 houses. And there's a little fox that lives there, beautiful, beautiful little fox. And every time I look, and is he there? Is he there? Today he was standing in a sunbeam, it was lovely. Anyway, just as having my supper this evening, there was a big fox in my garden. And I think, how the hell? I've got 6 foot walls around. So, it has to leap quite
Yes,
heavily to get up
yes.
there. was nothing in for him to eat. But anyway, so
Just talking on the fox, go back in the family. Our mother has been feeding foxes before she passed, for a long time.
yeah,
They knew, they got the message, like our cousin Susie with cats. They'll
yeah.
knock at the door. I hear you're taking us in, and I think that certain animals are drawn to certain people because the tom-tom goes out.
Oh, and that too, and they feel safe,
Yeah,
in that there. They're not going to get problems.
right.
And there are some people who are afraid of the wild, poor
Yes.
fuckers.
Yeah.
But yes, and I was in my walk today. I was watching a woman. There was her border collie was barking at her as she was walking, and she was ignoring him. And I know exactly that bark. It says, "Throw me the stick. Throw a ball." Oh, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you throwing it at me? Woof, woof, woof. And she wouldn't. And a poor thing.
You should have translated for the dog. If you remember Kokomo, our border collie, which a photograph I have over here somewhere, she used to be very, very proud picking up branches,
Yeah,
huge
yeah,
branches,
absolutely. Huge.
walking, taking people's legs out as she goes, tail wagging like crazy that she was so proud of
Yeah.
herself. And it's
But
rather like children. You cannot help but smile. They just bring such joy to you and such
yeah,
trust.
well, that's why I, if you read say a Raymond Chandler novel, who I have a great respect for as a writer, I love the old stuff, the Philip Marlowe stories, etc. What I do is to take that aspect of, the lone investigator, but no one really is that lone person. We all have personal lives, including hopefully some detectives, etc. And that is why I give them a dog and throw them a child that they don't really want there. It's inconvenient. And the more inconvenience that you can throw at a character, more is revealed of that character
Right.
and strengthened.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so,
It
he's
also humanizes them because very often we look at this, detective, or whether it's private or whether it's other, and they have no relationships and they're kind of cold and they're driven, and it softens them up and it gives them some humanity. Because I remember in one of the books that you wrote, the hunting, or could have been the repossessions. I can't remember which, because you did a trilogy there, so I can't remember which
yeah.
one it is in. But you had one hell of a time trying to save the dog
Oh
from
God, yeah.
from the rapid waters, and it was
Yeah.
like, no, you have to save the dog, whatever you do.
The thing about when you're writing about kids and animals, no matter whatever's happening to your main character, you have to remember to feed the dog.
Yeah.
Never mind, feed the child, right? It's a very important. There's a great Clint Eastwood movie, The Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yes,
There
yes.
he is, an outlaw, but he's sort of like all these people are attracted to him because they feel safe with him. So he's like got an entourage around him that he has to now protect. And the last thing he wants, So the writer of that understood that principle very well. It humanizes whoever your main protagonist is.
Yes, because otherwise, I mean, we're even seeing that in the superheroes. They may not have a pet, but we're seeing them kind of be touched by things or be responsible, be accountable. And even though they're superheroes and maybe, come from a different planet or whatever the case is, there is that touch of humanity in them, of
Yeah.
caring. We want to know, however tough and clever they are, that they actually do have a caringness inside of them.
A bit about the relationship with the guy and Maria, who's the girl who's living with him. So Maria ate some onions and regarded them carefully. "Why are you being nice? Aren't I always nice to you?" Reluctantly, she nodded. "But why? I don't deserve it." Delaney didn't think you had to explain this kind of thing, but clearly she was in the mood for talking. "My dad never spoke to me after I took up sailing, and I told him I wasn't going to work in his factory." "What? Never?" "Not a word. Didn't see me win any championships, didn't come to my graduation, refused to come to my wedding, and wouldn't let my mother come either. He died just after that. I nearly didn't go to his funeral, but I guess I had to. He was an asshole." "Yep. So now you're nice to me because your father was mean to you." Delaney took a slug of his cider. "I'm nice to you because your mother is an asshole and you've got no one else, except Rufus. It all comes down to Rufy. If he says you're okay, you're okay. I'm nice to you despite your language. And my shitty attitude, that too. Maria grinned and drank some cider, making a face. There you go.
See, Rufus saves the day again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
He's the glue that holds everyone together there.
Yeah. And unlike in his Dark Materials, the dog doesn't talk. A dog doesn't need to. You have to understand their eyebrows.
Oh, gosh.
The
yes,
eyebrow.
and the tilt
The
of the
language,
head.
semaphore,
Yes,
everything,
yes, exactly. Yeah, talking about the Dark Materials and Philip Pullman book, when I read that, it was a revelation for me, and it actually became a little bit of an envy, because it was like the soul is a talking being next to you that can do that. We don't have to go in, we need to listen to it. And it was like, oh, how I wish. And I think the new Dark Materials series is absolutely wonderful. I'm loving it. And I just loved his books. Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, it finishes tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes.
You've probably got a couple of weeks to go, actually.
Yes, I am a little bit behind you here in Canada, but yes, I can't get enough of it, and I just want the next book to be revealed.
I think God, they're going to have so much trouble to do the third one.
Yes.
First of all, they haven't been able to film.
Right.
Secondly, you've got characters who have wheels instead of legs,
and they're aging beyond the time written.
And then
where they're at.
Hades to hell.
Right. That disturbed me so much. That's the thing about books. I can read books. Yes, it was all very pleasant. Put it down, forget about it. I want to be moved. I want to be afraid. I want to have it sit with me afterwards. I want to be able to reflect back on it or be brought up in a conversation. That's when a book I know really has had an impact on me. When I can, look back at it, when I can look at it. I'm constantly referring to your Thomas D book.
Yes.
Because it's just the whole concept of that story of how it could have changed history, just
a little thing.
Tiny little thing, boom, like that, innocent, and how it had such a huge, bigger impact. And way back when in the 80s, when you wrote The Curse of the Nibelung, that the war was all about chocolate. Sherlock Holmes and Watson's last case. But you also wrote a book, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moe, which was the parody of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yes, and of course he just died this week.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yes.
I didn't know that. I hadn't seen that.
He actually was a patron for my course in Falmouth. And,
wonderful.
A scholarship for one student every year, yeah.
Fabulous. Well, I know when I put down that book, and I know that it was meant to be a parody because I'd seen the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy series, I put it down and go, but no, this is too real. This is that's the art that you have, is that no matter whether you're taking people into totally different dimensional worlds, which you do beautifully, you make people want to go and live in that world because it always seems to be better. But you also always give such intrigue to it. But it's always the what if, what if we had just taken that direction or taken this direction, how things could change. But it's always at the end of it too, is that whatever you think it's about, it isn't.
Maybe. I don't know if a writer's necessarily conscious of that when you're writing it, oddly enough. And but yes, I never told John le Carre when he would come to see the students that I wrote Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Moe. It was probably a bit mean to have him there paying all that money for a student.
I wonder if he actually ever did read it, and I didn't know. But there was another book that you wrote. Oh gosh, this is going back into the 70s. It's the one where the author writes for other people. God, what was that name?
Oh yeah, 209
Throw Road.
Yeah.
And I was staying with you at a time, and you had got the main character stuck in a pit trying to get out of it.
Yes.
And it took you a week to write him out of it.
Yeah, so, it was quite difficult.
We don't realize that the writer has a problem sometimes in getting their characters out of situations that they put themselves into.
I had to find a rover to get in the back seat and figure out how, if you were tied up, how you would get out of a locked car. And so, yes, I had to actually experience all of that. It was really quite difficult. And
so it's easy to write somebody into a situation, but it's not also easy to write them out of it, is it?
Particularly when you were being buried alive at the time, I seem to recall.
Yes. There is a little bit of a time constraint
Yes, there was a little bit.
there. So
Always
remember,
have a bit of a ticking clock. It's always
yeah,
useful.
you were in quite a mood that week trying to work it out how to get him out of that, because you truly do become immersed
Yeah,
in your writing, which is and all of these have stayed with me. And you wrote Ramapo,
yeah.
which
That was a long time ago.
that
But
was a
the recent one, The Girl with Cat Blue,
yes, I loved that.
which
I hope there's a
I've been,
sequel to that.
well, there isn't a sequel, but I've spent a lot of part of this year, well, about 5 months of this year, writing not the screen, but TV series of it. So there's
Yeah,
uh,
it is.
eight
There is a visual.
8 hour long episodes. That's and a
Yes.
lot of work. A lot of work. Worked with a girl from Euroscript here, and it's always good to work with someone who can make the objections or make alterations and changes and suggestions to help.
However painful they may be.
Yeah, no, it's more about it's never usually about the dialogue or anything. It's simply about she's a film director, so she looks at it probably with the cost.
Right, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
for instance, the script I've just written, uh, she made me redo it and take virtually all the people out of it because she said, in under COVID rules, people cannot afford people
Right.
anymore,
Yes.
and separating everybody, etc. And so, to be honest, I'm not terribly happy, and I made the decision next year I'm going to write it as a book. Then I can put all those people back.
Right. Yeah.
Because it loses the dynamic of the humor, the certain elements of the story.
It's not terribly
Reduce it
realistic.
down.
We can't write for COVID, unless you're writing a COVID-based story. Um, and COVID affects people. So if you don't have people in it, then what's the point? So,
Yeah, and whereas in this book, I'm assuming it's about a year after everyone's had the vaccine.
right.
After that, but there are still people wearing masks, and there's still people concerned about things.
Right. Well, you wrote
I
another
didn't want
book,
the
Another Place to Die, which you
yeah,
wrote based in Vancouver, Canada. You
yeah.
burnt down Commercial Drive, if anybody knows where Commercial Drive is. But you wrote that book when the SARS came out. And I know
Yes,
at the beginning of every chapter, you put down an actual fact on SARS. And then you
yes.
take it, and of course, um,
A
far
lot of
more
that stuff's
deadly
come
than,
true.
yeah,
Everybody has to wear masks and
yes,
everything.
yeah.
So
But if that was a little bit more contagious, that if you got to it, that was its sure death.
yeah,
And
it was a lethal
a
virus. Yeah,
lethal one, and people literally having to close the door on their children, otherwise everybody would have been dead. And it was a lot more ruthless.
well,
um
it was also based more on Spanish flu, which killed 50 million people worldwide.
right,
So
right.
that's where I was going from that. Whereas this has been relatively benign in the sense that it's targeted a certain section of the population, COVID. Although who's to say it wouldn't mutate
Which
to
it
something?
has.
But
A lot more younger people
yeah,
are
but
getting it
actually,
now.
oddly enough, this mutation at the moment is less lethal but easier to spread, and that's
Right.
how a virus. Viruses are sort of a semi-intelligence, if you like,
Yeah.
and what they love to do is spread. That's what they love to do,
Yes.
right? And so they look for the easy way to do it. So if they mutate to make it easier to spread, it's doing its job well.
Yes. And
You've
nobody
got to
can
think of it
keep
in
up
that
with
way.
that. Right.
Yeah.
Nobody can, even these vaccines that are going out right now.
No, they'll be fine against it. They will work.
But it's, if people would take them, as they're saying, 70% of populations need to take them in order for it to turn the tide
Yes, and I think
completely.
that will happen here. At the moment, only 360,000 people have taken the virus, but that's because we don't have
Right.
enough
And we're
doses of it.
having a problem getting it right now. It's been
Yeah,
promised to us, but it's all going into the States. So,
and of course they're only really doing people over 80 here.
yes, I saw the woman turning 91 or something, the first person
Yeah,
having an inoculation.
the
And
trick the trick about this whole virus thing is, of course, it's getting everyone back for the second dose,
yes,
and
yes.
that's the tricky part, making sure everybody comes back. Otherwise, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, and
Everybody,
of course the new ones that are coming out, because there's a lot of people with reactions to this one, and they're actually saying that if you
not that
do have,
many, and they only have a day's
well,
reaction to.
that's, yeah, but they are saying with people that are either pregnant or people that have a particular immune syndrome or use EpiPens, not
Yeah.
to take this particular one, that there may be other
No,
ones that
wait.
might be better for them. So wait.
I'm hoping, well, I hope to get the AstraZeneca one when it comes on.
Right. I don't know about that one. I know there's the Madeira one and there's something else out there, and we're probably going to get that one. But it's, it's amazing when you look at it, because there is a world pandemic. Look how fast we've had the vaccines, which normally can take years to develop.
Mm.
And when you put the money and you put the effort behind it, and everybody's working on things together, and in a way, that's how your books are. Is that when you have people coming together, even if they disagree, or they may look at things from a different point of view, at some point you always have your people come together, facing the one agenda, the one issue, and work on it together. And that's how they resolve it. And that seems to be a common theme in your books.
Yeah. With this particular one, I had a slightly different a problem about where to set it. I didn't want to set it in a specific place, although in my head I am stealing bits from different countries or whatever I was writing it. So you got a bit of Cape Town there, a bit of Miami in there. It's I called it Berg City because I didn't want it to be about one
Identified.
particular
Yeah.
place. But actually, that proved to be much harder. Normally, when I write write a book, I set it exactly, where in another place to die, the End Time Chronicles one. I remember having to pace out between how long that street would be, particularly with the rat scene and that particular one and all the rest of it. But this, and I don't think I'll do that again. I don't think my next book I would set in a place that isn't real. I prefer it to be real.
Right.
And
Right.
it was much harder doing setting it in an anonymous city, as it were.
Well, the thing is about that, when it comes to script, when it comes to putting it somewhere, you can have a fictional city, and it
Yeah.
transfers into TV or movie very well.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's even easier if it's not a particular country or particular city, because that can do that. But I can imagine when you haven't got the reference, because I know that you really do research your books. You go and travel to the places, the Diamonds one.
Yeah.
You went to research that, and of course you've written many here in South Africa, in Canada. And done a lot of research here. The haunting and the repercussions were initially set here. The other book that I absolutely love, which I'm drawing a blank on now, the one with the feet, the boy.
The feet.
Yes, the feet washing up on the water on the.
Oh, right. Yes, that was. Surely that was the repossession, was it? Oh, I have
No, that was a different one. It's about the psychic boy.
Oh yeah,
and our mother.
Mean Tide.
Mean Tide, which
Yes,
originally you wrote on Jericho Beach in Vancouver.
That's right. Yes, it was originally called Jericho Boy, and then I relocated it to England.
Right.
And they made it in a specific place in Greenwich before it got gentrified, which is now all skyscrapers.
Right.
Yes. But then it was all scrap yards, and there was much more Dickensian, which I liked.
Yes. That's very, very common in your books. But the interesting thing about that is that it's about a psychic boy goes to live with his grandma, who is psychic. But the interesting thing about that is that he discovers a boot with a foot in it. And the interesting thing that happened shortly after you wrote that book is that on the shores of BC here, there were feet. And the weird thing is, they were all either the right or the left foot. It wasn't the 2 feet of people. And it's like, where did these come from? It's like,
I think obviously people got either thrown overboard and chopped up by the propellers or whatever.
Yes, and it was quite a mystery there. And I think that's the thing. They say art imitates life. But it seems to me life imitates art sometimes.
But that comes from when I was at school. I was at Naval College. Do you ever come to my ship? I think you're probably too young. I can't remember.
No, I did. I do remember coming to visit.
And we would have normal school hours, but normal Navy hours. And so we'd be up at 4 a.m. and, if you were on the watch. So this particular morning, I was on the watch, and I would have to take the motorboat over to the shore, because you're actually on the river, and collect early morning staff arriving. No, collecting the milk that would be deposited at the end of the thing. And when I got there, I thought, that's odd. A pig had washed up on the high tide and onto the dead pig. But it wasn't a dead pig. And I just thought they'd cut the paws and things off, and actually it was a human.
Oh, wow.
Decapitated and whatever. So that was my first experience of someone had been murdered and chopped up and left in the river
The
and left
murder
right
writer
on
was
our
born.
walk next to the milk. So calling the cops, that was my very first experience of something like that.
Yeah.
So these things do happen.
They do. That's the thing. They do happen. I mean, you see.
And on my very first day at that school, now you imagine your father taking me to the school, right? We go on board and there's a thwack. A boy who'd been bullied, forced to climb the rigging, falls to his death right in front of us. And my father still leaves me there for 3 years.
Yeah, Dad was. It was the way he was brought up as well, right? You know, like I always say.
I would not have left my kid.
No, I wouldn't have either. You know, our mother once said to me, "You raise your children the way you would like to have been raised," because we were all sent to boarding school very early. I went later because of my asthma, but you guys were like 6 when you went. I went just before my 9th, and that's just the way it was done back in those days. And our parents weren't given kind of love and attention or, you know, empathy or anything like that. So it's not something they could pass on. They loved us, but they were still following the tradition.
Yeah, I don't know. I think out of sight. That's it. Gone. You're gone.
Yeah. Well, you know, kids should be seen and not heard, and they could be seen on a photograph. Yeah. Yes.
So all of these things form why one becomes an artist or writer or whatever, or a psychopath or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Harry Potter, I mean, I remember first seeing Harry Potter and looking at the school and thinking, I wish my boarding school had been like that. You know, especially the food.
Yeah, the food.
Actually, we had great food. We had Elsie Tanner and Mrs. Hawkins.
No, really.
And Elsie Tanner was skinny, Mrs. Hawkins was round, and we actually had great food. I do remember that.
I remember our chefs went on strike once. And so you, and you, you're cooking breakfast, you're cooking lunch and whatever. So I was on breakfast duty and I think, you try cooking eggs and bacon for 300 people and you're very first. It's not something you come across in any instructions.
Right, exactly. And, you know, it kind of brings us to what's happening today with all of a sudden our essential workers being the heroes. You know, and so it's, you only appreciate what other people do when you have to go and do it yourself. And or you rely on those people for your survival. And I think it's a good perspective every now and again to have. But everything that happens in you, I mean, you've always had a love of words, which you get from our mother. You know, she loved words as well. She was an actress. She loved reading, constant reading. And so you were crossword puzzling and, you know, reading.
No, I've never done a crossword in my life.
Oh, not? So it was just reading? What was I know you were very young when you started reading.
Oh, yes. I can still remember I can still remember being 3 and realizing I could read the name of our house, which was Landike.
Right. Yes, I remember.
And from that moment on, I could read. And I was 3.
Right. Yes, you had a lot of words.
I was very lucky. And so, you know, I don't know why I didn't become brighter, really. But anyway.
It's all in your book, Sam. It's like the piano. I mean, you used to go into people's houses and start playing their piano.
I don't play that anymore now.
You need a piano. That's what you need in your front room, is to get a piano. No. You need music.
Oh, God. Anyway, so this is the book, all right? We Feel Your Pain. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
All right. Okay. And so we feel your pain so you don't have to. And a company, just think about that as we're all suckers for somebody else to deal with our problem and pay money to make it go away. And sometimes we have to fix it ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody would love to have somebody else take their pain away from them. I mean, you know, how many people really, I mean, you look at chemo and you look at many other things, the pain that people are in, and it's, you know, we would put an animal down if they're in that kind of pain, but, you know, letting a person go is meant to be criminal, but we'd rather see them in pain. And so I think pain is something, you know, death is is something people can, quote, live with, because it
Yeah.
gets rid of the pain. But if you're having to live with pain day in and day out, it's learning to manage it, it's learning to give into it. And sometimes, it dictates you, and sometimes you can manage it. But it is something that if we had a magic wand or a magic pill or a magic anything else, we would love to get rid of it but again, the pain is always there for a reason, and it's our reluctance to kind of look at it or deal with
Yeah.
it that puts us into trouble. And how many Pied Pipers? I had a wonderful woman, was with us for 4 years, 5 years, I think, Wise Health. And she used to call herself the snake oil woman, because back in the 60s, when she was talking about alternative medicine, they used to
Yeah.
call her the snake oil woman.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we did have people way back, and still have people selling you concoctions that are going to do this and do that for you. And in our need, we'll buy it, right?
Yeah. Sadly, we do. Well, which is why the drug company, the pharmaceutical companies, make drugs that don't work.
Yes,
So you'll keep coming back.
right. Yeah, they're not looking to cure you. They're looking to keep you as a long-term customer.
Hence, the whole of the OxyContin stuff is all
Yes,
about dependency.
yes. And the
Crazy.
amount of deaths that we have had here in
Yeah,
BC is
it's crazy.
unbelievable this year to the oxide. And I've done
The people who make that stuff, the Purdues, why aren't they in jail? I know they have
exactly.
to pay billions in fines, but they should be in jail.
No, exactly. They're criminal. I mean, you arrest people for heroin and cocaine and things like this. Why not the OxyContin? In fact,
It's just
actually,
as ridiculous.
they just
Yeah.
had a huge drug bust actually on that here locally. Um, I've interviewed a few people that became addicted to it, and they ordinary civilians that had an operation where the pain was so bad, they got on the OxyContin, and they were told to stay on it by their doctors to manage the pain, and then one of them ended up with a gun under his pillow,
Ah,
becoming an outright criminal, another one just doing whatever he could to get it. And it's, became a slave to it. So, people think it's only drug addicts or criminals that get caught up in this. And it is not
no,
the
no, it
case
can
at
happen
all.
to anyone, which is why I'm always shocked when this first started. My doctor just offered me all these painkillers, and I said, no, that's not what I want. I want a cure.
Yes.
I don't want a pain killer. Kill the pain. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But anyway, I hope to walk, diet. That's why I'm vegan.
Yes.
So the idea is that you control things by not putting poison in your body.
Exactly. And a great deal of it is mindset, heart set,
Yeah.
attitude towards life, what you feed and what you water will grow. So if you don't want to be living in the misery, choose not to, choose to feed something else. And it may
Yeah.
not take the pain away altogether, but it'll certainly lessen the pain.
Yeah.
The moral of the story with the whole book is that it doesn't matter what you pay or who you pay, you're still going to have to face your own pain.
Yeah. If you like. But and also it's hopefully I've set it up. And I want if people like this book enough, maybe Delaney and Asher can do another. Who knows?
Well, you have set it up like that this, that you've developed their relationship, their characters, and it's the four of them, the dog, the kid, and them. You've set it up in such a way that it's very, very easy for them to take on another unusual case, because
Yeah.
what has come out of this is their realization is that they don't belong where they are,
Mm.
that they have a better aptitude and ability to go and see things and do things about it over in that area. And I think that's you've set it up very, very well for another book, for another adventure, so especially something that's bizarre.
Yes. I didn't set out to do something bizarre though. It just happens that way.
Yeah, so you always bring out something bizarre, but at the same time, though, this is the thing: is that you have an act when you write that one puts it down, and that was really great, and you have food for thought, and you go, but who says it's not real? You
Mm.
take us into other worlds, and this book, not so much. It's kind of more humanoid, but in other books, you've taken us into other dimensions. I mean, the hunting and the whole trilogy of that you wrote for youth, and it's about youth. But anybody adult reading it, you see something about yourself in there, most certainly. But it's the way I love the way you leave thoughts in our head of us viewing life differently because
Yeah,
of
I
what
mean, you
you've
think
written.
about Genie in the third one, the heaviness, which is still available, which is about um, if you have teleportation, and anyone has watched Star Trek Discovery or whatever, you
Exactly,
all know about
exactly.
that. But every time you move, you'll become a different person. So the thing is, who owns your DNA?
Mm,
So that's what that's about, you know.
yes. And
I'm
what,
always looking at these type of issues, that we're so casual about in science fiction. I want to worry about the who invented that and who owns it and who's making money out of it.
right. And way back when, I don't know which era, I remember you writing a book on faxing armies.
Well, yes, that developed into repossession, and that became
Right. Yeah. Right.
teleportation. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, this is when you look at a movie. I always used to look at a movie and look at the fashion, the hairstyle and the fashion. I could tell you what era it is.
Yeah,
Now all we
absolutely,
have to do is look at the computer and the phone.
absolutely.
And we know.
And
Um,
that the other thing too is that you need to keep as much technology out of your stories
yes,
because it
it does
dates
date
so
it.
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's and that's the hard thing. And that's the same way with COVID. I wanted to keep COVID in the background. It's something that has happened, not
Hmm.
something that is,
Happening.
because that's absolute dilemma for so many writers now. What do we do about COVID, knowing that it should be transitory?
Yes.
So if you think about this, now people are thinking about once we have the vaccine, it's going to be like the roaring 20s again. Everybody will go slightly crazy, dance crazes, and
Hmm.
they'll go mad and whatever. Um, but I don't know. So much change has happened in this last year, including exactly what we're doing now, a Zoom call.
Yes. Exactly.
And the but will people go back to offices? Will people fly as much? Everyone thinks, oh, everyone will fly again. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I don't know.
I had somebody on last week, or back in December, who who is a Mackie. So in other words, she goes into kind of multi-dimensions and gets information of what's needed for each year. And every year she writes out the codes. The
No.
codes, the codes that are being laid out for us for that year. And she's saying that we have another 4 years of transition. 2021 is still going to be a rocky year.
It
Nowhere
is.
near like 2020, but still going to be a rocky year.
I think more financially, it'll be a big
well,
bad year.
by the second half of the year, the vaccine and thing would have taken place. We're going to start seeing
Yeah.
the diminishing of COVID, but now we're going to go into the economic situation, which is going to take another few years. There is no going back to normal. It's going to create a different norm and a more conscious one where people are actually going to be more integrative to what's around them instead of chasing something away from them. So I think it's going to be extremely interesting where we're going. It's also an incredible opportunity to steer the ship. And so anybody who's writing about something right now, there's a hell of a lot of control that you can have in painting a future we would love to see, and having it kind of be that blueprint for people that just need to have something together. So
The,
not a doomsday. We've had the doomsday. We don't want that anymore. We want something that shows us that with these actions we can change something, even if
well,
it's
that's always
difficult and
what
rocky.
Delaney's telling Maria in the story. What's my future? She's asking, what's my future? Well, the future is going to be like wiping people's asses because AI is going to take all the jobs. So you have to think about something that the AI can't do, which is wiping people's asses, burying bodies, whatever. So she's not too keen on this.
Right,
But
exactly. And but that's it's everything happens in life. Everything happens for a reason, and everything happens at a particular time because it's that invitation for us to look at something differently, do something different. We have an opportunity right now with a blank canvas in front of us to paint it the way we want it. And when we read something, like this book, yes, it's a thriller, yes, it's a love story, yes, it's about conspiracy and intrigue and corruption. It's got everything in it, but when you put it down and you digest it, you go, how much of this relates actually to my life? And you realize there's a lot more when you look at the parallels. That's relatable. Yeah, great thriller, wonderful book. but how much stays with you, and you realize that's actually going on. That's actually going on. Well,
Yeah.
what are we going to do about it? Because the reason it's going on is because everybody's going la 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 la, close eyes, close ears. I don't want to know. But if we all know, then we hold people accountable, and then they can't do it.
Yeah. But enough about Donald Trump.
One of the beauties at the present moment, since Biden has got in, and as Rachel Meadows and Colbert were talking about the other day, is how they're looking forward to the next 4 years of vanilla political talk. How boring it's going to be,
It may
because
not be though. I can see a rearguard action.
we're going to see some certain, because it's come to the surface. It's not just going to go away because he's gone away, and it's
No.
going to have to be addressed. But as far as intelligence and common sense of people in
Yeah.
position, that is going to be a relief. But they know it's not like he's in power and everything goes set to Holly do. No, it's already revealed. And now what do you do with what you see in front of you?
It's now, it'll be 4 years of undoing all the damage.
Yeah. And boy, does he have some work cut out for him.
He does. Yeah.
Yes.
And Trump, right this day, is passing laws to drill in all of the protected
Yeah.
parks, etc. It's just disgusting.
Yeah. But, they're not going to happen immediately. And of course, it'll have to be all, I think I could see the first 100 days, Biden just literally going through cancel, cancel, cancel,
Yeah,
cancel.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he can. Yeah,
Yes. Um,
but
but yeah,
anyway,
and it's
well,
it's interesting because it certainly brings about, we've been shaken up this year. We've been woken up this year. We've been asked to stand up and change it up. Going into 21, we can't get into any false illusion that, oh, now we're in 2021, there's a vaccine and now we can forget everything. It's this
that's the
instant,
worry, though, isn't it? That people
yeah,
think, oh,
yeah,
it's
where's
and
common
if enough
sense?
people don't take it, then there's still
Yes.
a
Yeah,
huge
and we're
problem.
still going to be back to square one again. And somebody pointed out to me the other day when seatbelts came in, they were put there for your safety, right? They were put there so you don't go through the windshield. Um, and
Although
there was
actually, I did go through a windshield, but that's because I was hit sideways.
right, yeah. So seatbelt or not. I mean, if you remember when I ripped mother's car off, had I been wearing a seatbelt, I would have had my head sliced in half by the sunroof. So,
Yeah,
it's the different situations. But there was a pushback against them, right? And now it's become commonplace. So the whole mask thing, I've still got people that are highly intelligent telling me it's a 5G thing. Or,
enough. It is.
government conspiracy, and I keep pointing out, well, if the government is telling you to wear a mask where they've got you a big brother, a camera on you everywhere, and they can't see who you are, do you really think they want you to wear a mask? This is a safety measure, and I hope that somewhere along the line common sense prevail. I don't think any writer could have written 2020 the way it happened, because nobody would have believed it.
I tried with Another Place to Die, Anti Chronicles, but
Yes,
no
but
one
no, but you
would have
still were far too intelligent and common sense and rational about it. There was nothing rational about 2020. A very
imagined.
irrational year.
No,
Um, Hysteria, a total hysteria and whirlwind, and everybody's exhausted by it. And when a thriller writes a story, we want the peaks, we want the excitement, we want to be on the edge of our seat, but we want to be able to exhale. And this, we don't feel in the last 2020 or 4 years that we've had any exhale. And I think
no.
this is what we're all eager for right now. So when somebody is writing, they've got to have those breathable moments, haven't they? Otherwise, it just winds everybody up too much and it just becomes too overbearing.
Which is why my characters have the occasional time to go to the bathroom
And drink wine
and drink wine. Yeah,
and take the dog for a walk.
and take that over. Yeah,
All those things that humans do.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
I
Anyway,
have ordered the book, which unfortunately due to the post hasn't arrived yet, because I know it's literally just come out. But I as I said, I read the first script, I loved it, and I know you've just tweaked it a little bit, so I'm looking forward to rereading it in its entirety now. I think for people who just want a lot of people read to escape. It's not a reading to escape, although it's, it's the same reason that we all watch a good thriller or a good movie or anything else. We want to be entertained. There is a certain amount of escapism. But as I said, you have a knack that when you write, that you put the book down, it was very satisfying, but you start seeing things differently. You
Yeah.
leave people with a perspective which opens their eyes and sees things differently. And it's always the what if. And that's,
It's
where you
about
bring that.
it's a human book.
Yes.
Yeah. The characters are as real. Well, they are real. They're all based on
They're
people.
relatable. They are relatable, all of them, in every book that you write. And, I've got all of your books here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. They can go into the bookstore and see the whole layout there. And plus, I've got numerous articles you've written, and Hack Writers, your site, where other people write for you and you write as well. It's all there. And people can go to samhawksmoor.com to catch all your books.
Yep, and all my books are available on Amazon.
Right. So,
and as Kindle and also in print.
right. And there's nothing better. That's, I've read the script thing in as you typed it. I do have it in Kindle, but I want the book. I like the paper book and turn the pages. That's reading for me. But it's
believe it. When it was all laid out, I couldn't believe how long it is actually. But anyway, gosh, 321 pages. So there you go. It's a good read.
It is.
It's meaty.
It's meaty. It really takes people down different avenues. Just when you think you know what it's all about, it takes you down a different journey. You become very engaged with the characters, villain or not. And that's the thing. Your people are relatable, and I think for an awful lot of people, reading, that reminds me of somebody I know. And that's the thing. It always reminds you of somebody good or bad. And that's really, I think, the reason why your books stay with people so much, and why the storylines are so important, because it is relatable. You may take people off into different worlds, but at the same time, when they put that book down and go, this isn't so far-fetched, this feels very real.
Maybe the next one I'll beef up Zuki's character in it. You wouldn't have seen much of her in the version you wrote, but Zuki's character has become bigger in it. That's her best friend.
Right. Yes. Her conscious voice there too, the one of reason. Yes.
Yeah.
The sidekick, which would be good to see her being beefed up too. Yeah. No, certainly. So this book is out right now on Amazon.
Right now.
Find it, and they can also find it on your site, samhawksmoor.com. What's next? I know you've got a space book to write, or a space script.
Well, I might do the space book next, which is actually called Planet B. And because there is no Planet B.
Right. Yet another con one. That is a common theme in there, the people selling an illusion.
Yeah,
right.
But no, this is about that. And in the script, when I first wrote it, it was 150 pages, which is too long. And then to enter it into a competition, they wanted 120 pages. You try throwing away half an hour of your script. It just gets pared down. But then as I was doing that, I think, you know what? I think I'll write this as a novel, because then I can expand the universe again.
We want that. We want an expansion. We don't want things diluted.
Yeah.
We want that. We're hungry for that.
That's what happens in movies. Whenever you've read a book and they do a movie adaptation, think about all the things they've had to discard to be able to cram it down into 100 to 120 minutes.
Yes. And that's
why we see long form television is what people want, because they want more depth.
Yeah. Again, like the Dark Materials, taking each book as a trilogy, taking each book and making it so many episodes each book, you really are getting the storyline and it not being condensed and blown over like the movie was. So yeah, you can get immersed in it. We want to become immersed into the book. We want it to leave us with something. We want to be able to refer back to it.
That's my next lockdown novel.
Well, you've got another 6 months, love. So.
I know.
Plenty to do in the next 6 months.
Unbelievable. Anyway, look, I wish you the best. And,
I wish you too. And
2021, stay alive, wear your mask, stay optimistic.
Yes, optimistic. Yes. And read this book.
Yeah, and read We Feel Your Pain.
Yes, and not only that, all of his other books that you can get hold of, because you're in lockdown, and when you've got a taste of a good author, you want to read what else he's written as well. I've got all of his books on the shelf over there, and I promise you will be intrigued. It will take you into um, other worlds that really feel very relatable in this world. So plenty for you to read from Sam Hawksmoor, and also Sam North way back books, so they can find those as well. And
Sam,
look at hackwriters.com as well, because it's your magazine that many people write for, plus you've written stacks of stuff on there as well. There's plenty to be immersed into.
we'll be going into our 22nd year
Wow.
online. Crazy.
Wow.
For
Yeah.
nothing. No
Yes.
pain, nothing. Crazy. Yeah.
22nd years, 22 years of dedication.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mad.
Yes. The,
Anyway,
it's your legacy.
yeah. Well, just think about when I first started, it was only hamsters and a wheel making it all work. So same old hamsters, they just look a bit grey now. Yeah.
They want to retire, but I won't let them.
Anyway, happy 2021, Sarah.
Yes, to you too, my love. And to everyone else, please get this book. I promise you, you will be very intrigued with it. And then you will want to read the rest of his books. And you can find them all here at selfdiscoverymedia.com and on samhawksmoor.com. Until next time, folks, bye for now.
Goodbye.
We hope you enjoyed the show. We look forward to bringing you more shows. Please go to selfdiscoverymedia.com/shows and you will see the incredible lineup of genres and shows that we have for you. We are here to make a difference in your life. Thank you for listening.